A wealthy real estate mogul strolls into Judge Frank Caprio's courtroom as if she owns it. Her name is Veronica Hale, a woman whose designer heels echo louder than the law itself. Moments earlier she'd been cited for driving 25 miles over the speed limit in a quiet Providence neighborhood, but to her that ticket was nothing more than an inconvenience, something money could erase with the swipe of a card. As the cameras roll and the gallery watches, Veronica barely glances at the bench. Her phone buzzes, her sunglasses stay on, and the courtroom feels her arrogance before she even speaks. When Judge Caprio politely asks for her attention, she smirks. "Can we make this quick? I have real business to handle." Gasps ripple through the room. You can almost feel the tension shift, the air tightening around an attitude that's about to collide with real authority. But what happens next isn't just about a traffic citation. It's about entitlement meeting accountability, and a lesson that no bank balance can buy. In the next few minutes, this courtroom will remind everyone watching that respect is earned, not purchased, and that even the richest driver must stop when justice steps into the road. Because when Veronica Hale mocks the judge, interrupts the proceedings and laughs at the fine, she's about to discover something priceless. The cost of arrogance in a room where integrity outranks income. What Judge Caprio says next will silence her, humble the audience, and prove that real power doesn't need to shout. Subscribe to Real Judge Stories and tell us in the comments. Do you think wealth should ever change the rules of justice? Stay tuned. This story is just getting started, and what unfolds next will define pure justice. It's a Wednesday morning in Providence Municipal Court, and the docket looks routine: parking fines, minor speeding violations, and a handful of nervous drivers hoping for leniency. But then, the bailiff quietly leans toward Judge Caprio and murmurs, "Your Honor, next defendant's been difficult with the staff." The judge nods calmly, unaware that he's about to face one of the most entitled displays he's seen all week. Moments later, Veronica Hale enters. Every step announces money and confidence: tailored blazer, diamond watch, and a handbag that could pay someone's rent. She doesn't look at the court clerk, doesn't acknowledge the waiting crowd, and barely notices the camera position to her left. Instead, she scrolls through her phone, frowning at whatever deal or message seems far more urgent than the legal summons in her hand. Judge Caprio glances up from his papers. "Good morning, Ms. Hale. You're here regarding a speeding citation, 55 in a 30-mile zone." Veronica doesn't look up. "I told the officer that limit's ridiculous. Everyone drives that speed there." Her tone drips with annoyance, not remorse. The judge folds his hands, his expression steady, professional. "Please put the phone away. This is an official proceeding." Veronica sighs, finally lowering it but still radiating impatience. To her, this isn't a courtroom, it's a delay in her schedule. What she doesn't realize is that every word, every dismissive glance, is quietly building a case, not against her driving but against her character. And soon, the woman who thought money ruled everything will face a kind of judgment no fortune can soften. Judge Caprio's tone remains composed as he flips through the citation file. "Ms. Hale," he says evenly, "you were clocked at 55 miles per hour in a residential area. Do you understand why that's a concern?" Veronica finally looks up, her expression a blend of irritation and disbelief. "Concern? Judge, I was late for a board meeting. That road is wide and empty, nobody drives 30 there. Let's not waste time pretending this is serious." The gallery shifts uneasily. A mother waiting for her own case hugs her child closer. Officer Ramos, the bailiff, watches from the corner, arms crossed. Caprio nods slowly. "You say it's not serious. But the law doesn't change depending on your calendar. Were you aware school buses use that street?" Veronica scoffs. "I fund scholarships, Judge. I've done more for kids than this city ever has. Let's just skip the lecture and tell me the fine." Her words hang in the air, sharp, dismissive, entitled. The judge exhales softly. "The fine is $350 plus costs." She laughs. "$350? That's a lunch bill. Just charge my card and let me go." The courtroom stiffens. Caprio's eyes lift, calm but firm. "This isn't a restaurant, Ms. Hale. It's a court of law." Veronica folds her arms. "And I'm a very busy woman sitting here listening to a speech about driving too fast. With all due respect." "Respect," Caprio interrupts gently, "is exactly what's missing here." She tilts her head. "I respect the law. I just don't have time for this small-town theater." A few people in the audience exchange glances. The judge could react, but he doesn't. His restraint only amplifies the tension. He turns another page. "Your record shows 3 previous speeding violations in the last 2 years. Does that sound correct?" Veronica waves her hand. Yes, yes. I pay them. That's how this works. I pay, you file the paperwork, everybody moves on. Not exactly, Caprio replies. The point isn't to collect payments, it's to correct behavior. Paying doesn't erase danger. Danger? She almost laughs again. I've never had an accident. I drive better than most of the people in this city. Then you've been lucky, he says quietly. But luck isn't a substitute for responsibility. Her phone vibrates again. She glances down. Look, Judge, I've got executives waiting. Can we wrap this up? Caprio's voice lowers, deliberate. Ms. Hale, when you step into this courtroom, your time is the court's time. Put the phone away, please. For a moment she hesitates, then places it on the table with a loud tap, defiance disguised as compliance. There. Happy? Closer, he says. The tension thickens. No shouting, no drama, just the slow tightening of control. Veronica, used to dictating boardrooms, now sits beneath a quiet authority she can't purchase or ignore. She doesn't realize it yet, but every sarcastic word is steering her toward a lesson that will cost more than any fine. Soon, respect will stop being optional. Veronica crosses one leg over the other, eyes fixed on the judge with the same look she probably gives her employees when they miss a deadline. Judge, with all due respect, you're treating this like I endangered the world. It's a minor speeding ticket. I'm not some reckless teenager. Judge Caprio doesn't respond right away. He studies her calmly, the way he's learned to read people before deciding whether they need mercy or a mirror. Ms. Hale, when someone drives 25 miles over the limit, they gamble with other people's safety. You've had 3 prior violations. That tells me this isn't an accident, it's a pattern. She chuckles lightly, shaking her head. A pattern of success, maybe. You see, Judge, when you run 3 companies and employ hundreds of people, your time actually matters. The city should be thanking me, not wasting my morning. The courtroom murmurs. A man in the back whispers something to his neighbor, and the bailiff clears his throat for silence. Judge Caprio's gaze sharpens. The law doesn't care about your net worth, Ms. Hale. It applies the same to everyone. She smirks. That's cute, but let's be real, rules don't always treat everyone equally. I've seen how this city works. You issue tickets, we pay, and you call it justice. It's a business model, not morality. For a second, even the cameras seem to stop humming. Caprio leans forward, his tone still soft but edged with steel. You may misunderstand what happens in this room. This is not a negotiation. It's accountability. Veronica rolls her eyes. Please, Judge. Accountability is for people who have something to lose. I could pay this fine 100 times over and not blink. The judge finally closes the file, folding his hands. That's the tragedy of arrogance. It confuses wealth with wisdom. Her smile falters just a little. Excuse me? You think success entitles you to shortcuts, he says. But entitlement blinds people to consequences. And when that blindness spreads to how you drive, it stops being an inconvenience, it becomes a danger. The gallery goes completely still. Veronica taps her heel against the floor, jaw tight. Are you done moralizing? I have investors on hold. Caprio glances at the bailiff. Officer Ramos, please make sure Ms. Hale remains seated until this hearing concludes. That small instruction lands heavier than any shout. Veronica straightens. Are you serious? You can't keep me here like some criminal. The judge's voice doesn't rise, it deepens. I can and I will until this case is resolved. For the first time, uncertainty flickers across her face. The hierarchy she's always controlled has reversed, and she doesn't like how that feels. Now, Judge Caprio continues, we'll proceed properly. You may not respect this court yet, Ms. Hale, but by the time we finish, you'll understand why respect matters more than titles or money. Her smirk fades completely. The courtroom, once heavy with irritation, now hums with anticipation. Something in the air has shifted. Veronica Hale's control is slipping, and the lesson she's about to learn is no longer financial. It's personal. Judge Caprio leans back slightly, his hands clasped, his eyes steady on Veronica Hale. The room feels frozen, the kind of silence that only comes before a storm that doesn't need thunder. Ms. Hale, he begins, I've been sitting on this bench for many years. I've seen people from every walk of life, those struggling to pay a $50 fine and those who treat it like pocket change. But I've learned something that I think you've forgotten. Veronica raises an eyebrow, half amused. And what's that supposed to be? That humility, he says softly, is the only thing that keeps power from becoming poison. She laughs once, sharp and dismissive. Poison? I'm not the one on trial here, Judge. I'm just here to pay a fine. Caprio's tone hardens, measured like a scalpel. You are here because you broke a law and then mocked the process meant to enforce it. You've interrupted, belittled, and acted as if your wealth grants immunity. That isn't confidence, it's arrogance disguised as success. The words strike like quiet lightning. Veronica's smirk falters, and the audience senses it. Officer Ramos glances toward her phone still resting on the table. She doesn't reach for it this time. Caprio continues. When you drove 55 in a neighborhood where children play, you gambled not only with your reputation but with lives you've never met. The rules that frustrate you exist to protect those people. They trust this court to remind every driver, rich or poor, that the road doesn't bow to privilege. Veronica shifts in her chair. So what, you're giving me a sermon now? No, he replies quietly, I'm giving you a mirror. The line hangs in the air. Even the court reporter stops typing for a heartbeat. Caprio's gaze never wavers. We all answer to something greater than our schedules, Ms. Hale. For most it's conscience. For you it might need to be consequence. She blinks, uncertain how to respond. The balance of the room has changed completely. The authority she thought she commanded now sits across from her, calm, unshakable, and immune to her wealth. For the first time, Veronica Hale looks less like a CEO and more like a citizen, one about to learn what accountability truly feels like. Judge Caprio opens the folder again, scanning Veronica Hale's driving record. His tone remains calm, but the authority in his voice fills the courtroom. Ms. Hale, your original fine was $350. Given your behavior today, the interruptions, the disrespect, and your attempt to leave this courtroom, I am raising the penalty to the maximum of $500 plus court costs. Veronica's lips part in disbelief. You can't be serious. You're punishing me because you don't like my attitude. I'm holding you accountable for it, Caprio replies. Your conduct here reflects the same disregard you've shown on the road. It's not the money that matters, it's the message. She lets out a short, incredulous laugh. This is outrageous. Do you know who I am? Yes, the judge answers evenly. You're a citizen of this city. That's all the court needs to know. The gallery murmurs. Officer Ramos steps forward slightly, ready if she reacts. Veronica presses her palms flat on the defense table. I'll appeal this. I have lawyers who'll eat this up. You're free to appeal, Caprio says, but if you do, I hope you also appeal your behavior. Her cheeks flush. The certainty in her tone begins to waver. The judge continues, in addition to the fine, I'm assigning you to complete a driver responsibility course within 30 days. You'll provide proof of completion to this court. Veronica shakes her head. A driving course? I've been driving for decades. And yet, Caprio says, you've had 4 violations in 2 years. Experience without reflection leads nowhere. The courtroom stays silent except for the soft hum of the overhead lights. Caprio pauses before adding, finally, due to your repeated disrespect and your attempt to walk out mid-hearing, I'm imposing an additional $200 for contempt of court. Her eyes widen. Contempt? For what? Being honest. For treating this court as if it were beneath you, he replies. For ignoring direct instructions, and for forgetting that humility is part of citizenship. The total fine now stands at $700 plus court costs. Veronica exhales sharply, anger fading into disbelief. Judge Caprio closes the folder. You thought this was about a ticket, Ms. Hale? It's about understanding that privilege doesn't replace principle. For once, she doesn't argue. The courtroom remains still as she lowers her eyes, the first visible crack in her composure. For a long moment, nobody speaks. The tension that had filled the courtroom begins to settle, replaced by an almost heavy stillness. Veronica Hale sits motionless, the reality of her situation sinking in. The confident businesswoman who once commanded boardrooms now faces a truth she cannot outspend. Judge Caprio's tone softens, but it carries more weight than before. Ms. Hale, he says, I don't enjoy raising fines or handing out penalties. My goal is never to humiliate anyone. It's to remind them that the law exists to protect, not to punish. What matters most in this courtroom isn't your income or your influence. It's your integrity. Veronica swallows, her earlier defiance fading into something that sounds almost like humility. So what happens now? She asks quietly. You pay your fines, complete your course, and reflect on how today unfolded, Caprio replies. But before you do that, there's something else this court requires, an acknowledgement of your behavior. She blinks. An acknowledgement? A sincere apology, he says. To this court and everyone present. For a moment, Veronica seems ready to argue again. But then her shoulders drop slightly and she exhales. Your Honor? She hesitates, her voice trembling for the first time. I apologize for being disrespectful. I shouldn't have spoken to you, or anyone here, that way. Caprio nods slowly. Apology accepted. The gallery is silent. Even Officer Ramos relaxes his stance. The judge continues, remember this, Ms. Hale, every person who stands in this courtroom is equal. The bench doesn't measure wealth, it measures character. And today you've taken a step toward rebuilding yours. Veronica nods, unable to meet his eyes. Yes, Your Honor. As she gathers her things to leave, the echo of her heels is no longer sharp or commanding. It's quieter, measured, reflective. She entered this courtroom believing her money made her untouchable. She leaves understanding that respect is the only true currency that holds value everywhere. As the door closes behind Veronica Hale, the quiet that lingers in Judge Caprio's courtroom feels different. It's not tension anymore, it's reflection. The people in the gallery whisper softly, some shaking their heads, others nodding in quiet approval. What they've witnessed wasn't just a legal proceeding. It was a reminder of what justice looks like when it's grounded in fairness, not fear. Judge Caprio gathers his files, pausing for a brief moment before moving to the next case. He doesn't smile, but there's a calm satisfaction in his expression, the look of a man who believes that accountability, when done with dignity, can still change hearts. Veronica Hale walked in believing that power meant control. She walked out learning that real power is humility in action, the courage to listen, to admit, to grow. And that's why stories like these matter. Because every time arrogance meets accountability, the balance of justice is restored just a little more. If this story moved you, hit subscribe to Real Judge Stories and share your thoughts in the comments below. Do you believe Judge Caprio handled this the right way? Or should he have gone easier on her? Tell us what justice means to you, because every voice deserves to be heard where fairness still rules.